All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Finance Committee. It is March 3rd, 1 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started here with introductions to the left.
Brittany Norris for the administration.
Colleen Hamsey, Council Research.
Mary Stefopoulos, Office of General Counsel.
Philip Peterson, Council Auditor's Office.
Kim Taylor, Council Auditor.
Good afternoon, Rory Diamond, District 13, The Beaches.
Ron Salem, Group 2 at large.
Nick Howland, at large, Group 3.
Joe Carlucci, District 5.
Good afternoon, Raul Arias, District 11.
Will Lane in District 3.
Jacoby Pittman, District 10.
And we have Rockman Johnson, Councilman Rockman Johnson.
Hi, everyone. Chris Miller, at large, Group 5, just visiting.
All right. And that is all we have. We have 3 presentations today. So luckily for our visiting council members, we're going to just go ahead and let you guys go first. And then we'll get into our presentations.
Test.
All right. It's his first time using the microphone. Yeah. Wow. I wasn't expecting such a loud crackle over there.
He was bored.
Yeah.
We just had a discussion upstairs.
So committee, what we're going to do is Councilmember Johnson, Councilmember Miller have requested to be taken up first, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So with that, Councilmember Johnson, your bill is item number 7. So if everyone wants to turn to page 4, item number 7. Second. Motion is second on the bill, 2026-0093. Anything for us? No? Any questions? Are you in the queue? Oh, you're ready to vote. Okay. Open the ballot, record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you approve 2026-0093. Shortest committee visit ever. All right. Councilmember Miller's bill, item number 14, 2026-102. We're looking for a motion on the amendment.
Move the amendment. Second.
Motion is second on the amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair to the committee, NCS PHS added an amendment that added language clarifying that this new stipulation would apply to unfunded completion grants and that they could not be funded with debt.
All right. All in favor, or any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment carries.
Move the bill as amended. Second.
We have a motion second on the bill as amended. Councilmember Miller?
Just happy to answer any questions. I think many of you saw this earlier as it went through an earlier committee. Really, I guess I will say this. I listened to what you all went through last year, and based on some of those concerns, I worked with the auditors to introduce this amendment, this legislation rather, so that we tighten things up a little bit regarding the budgets that come before you all. And so hopefully we'll be able to, if this passes, get a better idea going into the budget cycle exactly what it is we've committed to already as far as completion grants and other incentives that have already been approved, to make sure that they're included in that budget proposal that we receive.
Right.
So that's what's behind this. That's the intent, and open for any questions that you may have.
Okay, Councilmember Lannon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I support this, and I also want to say I've been working with the auditors as well as the administration, specifically Ms. Brochet. I have a bill coming that's not going to conflict with this, but just to give a heads up, Councilmember Miller's is talking about the annual budgeting process. Right now, if you look at Budget Code 106, pretty much when it's talking about the recapture process, in other words, when revenue exceeds expense at the end of the year, we're required to make sure our operating reserves are at a certain percent. I'm working on adding language that's saying after we make sure that, we put money up against any known committed liabilities, specifically cash completion grants. And so we as a committee, as well as a council, we've done a great job. I'm sure we're going to talk about some of the numbers later on what we've done, because again, when we started out this year, we had 74 million of cash completion grants, 60 million of which were coming next year. And I think we have greatly reduced that number. I'm sure someone will ask Mr. Peterson to give us an update when we get to one of these cash grants bills. But this is just getting another guardrail in place that as we have excess money, okay, the number one priority, make sure our reserves are at the target percent we set. Anything after that, right now, it could essentially be a money grab, but this would put in the ordinance that, okay, the next available tranche of money, if there's anything that has not been funded yet, in other words, if you look at the DIA tracker, we still have some budget sources that are just the general fund. So the goal is let's get rid of the general fund as being the budgeted source for these, or I'm sorry, unbudgeted source, and put actual money in a contingency to use that. So just want to give a heads up that that's coming. It does not conflict at all with what Councilmember Miller is trying to do here. It's just some more guardrails. And I mean, it's really kind of Finance 101 that you should fund your committed known liabilities before you use money elsewhere. So just trying to make sure we start thinking about that all the time when we do have this extra money. And again, operating reserves, known committed liabilities, and then we can call it a money grab after that. But at least let's put the guardrail there in place for our known liabilities.
All right. Council Vice President Howland.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to say I'm fully supportive of this bill, supportive of the bill that Mr. Lena just laid out, and really proud of this Finance Committee and the two previous Finance Committees who've identified the risk that unbudgeted completion grants pose to the overall budget. This bill and those other activities serve to de-risk future financial distress for the city, and in that way, I'm proud and happy to pass this one today. Thanks.
Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair to Councilmember Lane, does your bill touch on the emergency reserve as well as the operating reserve?
Through the Chair, looking at it quick, I believe it does. It has operating, emergency, that's already in the ordinance. So this would be adding additional language beyond the percentages for the target percentages already for operating, emergency reserve. There's a few other things like fleet management percentages in there, but mine will be augmenting that language to bring in the committed cash completion grants as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I just want to commend Councilmember Miller on this. I think this is a very wise, smart move in the right direction. We need that. We need that to be budgeted, and we can see what happens when it's not budgeted. And I appreciate your foresight and just seeing kind of what this committee has already done with paying down a tremendous amount of debt this year. And we'll get into those numbers later, but it's over $30 million. I think after today, this agenda is filled with paying down completion grants. So props to us for doing it without it being codified, but I think it absolutely needs to be codified. So with your bill and Councilmember Lanon's bill, I think just our future councils, when we're even not here, we don't have to worry about it getting sideways and just being a money grab. Please add me as a co-sponsor on the bill. And with that, I think we have a motion and a second. Let's open the ballot, record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-102 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee, for your support. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we have Councilmember Lane as a co-sponsor, Councilmember Arias as co-sponsor. Pretty much everybody on the dais. Ms. Pittman, you want to jump on this train? Or are you already on the train? You want to be on a co-sponsor? She's on the train. She's always been on the train. Get her on this bill. She'll put her on the front of the train. Yeah, if that's the thing. There you go. All right, excellent. And while we're at it, let's change to the finance amendment just because I'm just kidding. All right. So with that, we'll go to public comment, and then we'll go into the presentations, and we can start the agenda. We have one speaker card, Blake Harper. That's fine.
Chairman Carlucci, thank you for providing for public comment. It's a great thing to see that what Councilman Howland started, you're continuing public comment, input from the public is very important. Folks, Ordinance 91, 2026-91. I'm standing here. If you take a look at the exhibit, there's 107 pages of CIP entries. Within that 107 pages, there is one with regards to the James Weldon Johnson Park renovation project. It's only listing $5 million. The question is, where is the other $1 million+ that was spent? I sent to you all, every one of you, back when you were working on the budget, when Mr. Diamond was putting forth his resolution back in, when it was September of last year, documentation about the fact that this $1 million grant has been lost. Since June of 2024, you have not had the funding. You have lost the funding. The mayor lost the funding for this grant, $1 million. Now, I can speculate why, because, first of all, the ordinance was obtained under false pretenses. And so when it came time to deal with the reality that all these bad things was happened, they figured, well, let's just let it cut it loose and figure out what to do down the road. Well, that's really, it's been 2 budget cycles that this grant has been lost, that you have passed CIPs that have this lost grant. You should have dealt with this back in July of 2024, at least. You cannot rightfully vote on this CIP with that $1 million gone. The bottom line. Why it's here? We can talk about that. I have tried. Why Ken Amaro did not include state grants as I asked him to in that email that went September? That's a good question, especially for somebody who's an investigative journalist. Bad things have happened here. Bad things continue to happen. $1 million. I've been told $1 million and this budget's not relevant. But to each one of you, $1 million is something. Bad acts have brought this about, and bad acts continue. And you're voting for the CIP with this bad act in it continues that. Thank you.
All right, we have no other public comment cards. So with that, we will go to our first presentation, which is our JSEB Monitoring Committee Annual Report by Mr. Zaffaroni. Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Finance Committee. My name is Mike Zaffaroni. I am the chair of the JSEB Monitoring Committee, and I have very familiar face, Gregory Grant, with me today, who's our JSEB administrator. We have a short presentation for you. We would like to do a better job as a monitoring committee to report back to you guys and let you know how the JSEB department is doing relative to some of the stated goals in the ordinance and some of the secondary goals that have been identified by Mr. Grant and his team. I'll let Mr. Grant start on the first page of our presentation, and then I can wrap it up.
Thank you, Mike. Through the chair and to the committee, I'm going to be very brief. I just really wanted to, number one, say thank you to the chair of the JSEB Monitoring Committee for coming up and being willing to present our JSEB annual report. One of the things that I want to start off with is that we've done I've experienced a lot of progress with integrating the JSEB program into our community. If you look at the information in front of you, we have experienced 50 to 150% growth in every single district in Jacksonville. I want to point out District 7 and also District 5, who have experienced a lot of growth in JSEB participation. What's interesting about this particular report is District number 7 has a historic high level of distress areas, wherein District 5 has more affluent areas. So this is showing that our evangelism of the program is showing equity. The other part of this is over the past 2 years, we have paid out nearly $200 million in monies to JSEB participants. That is huge. Nearly $200 million. This is not awarded contracts. This is cash deposited into JSEB contractors' accounts over the past 2 years, which is remarkable, and we continue to grow. This does not include JSEB awards from the stadium or Gateway Jacks. Those are other numbers in addition to this. And I think it's important to highlight how JSEP plays a huge role in the small business economic mobility of this county. So I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Zaffaroni.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. On slide number 2, we've got some of the goals that are stated in the ordinance. I have been on this monitoring committee for, I think, about 3 years, maybe 2.5 years, and we have struggled to get this data consistently in the past and also to have it be reliable. Mr. Grant has been working with his team to calculate these numbers in a way that are much more reliable, much more consistent. For lack of a better way of putting it, they're automated now, where in the past they were sort of hand calculated. And so what our expectation is that you're not going to necessarily have any aha moments today, but that over the course of the next couple of years, as we report back to you, you'll have some consistency for which we can measure the success of the program. So one of the stated goals is to pay out 20% of dollars to JSEB, contract dollars. And you can see that of the $639 million that were paid out in fiscal year 2025, JSEB payments totaled around $86 million, or just more than $86 million of those dollars. And this is 13.5% of the total spend and 8.6% of the total contracts, so 624 out of the 7,226. On the capital improvement side, the numbers are slightly better, with 16.5% of the CIP work being awarded to JSEBs, although the targeted number there is 20%, the stated goal. Some of the challenges that the department has had in the past is a lot of the contracts that are awarded, there may not be sufficient JSEBs that are qualified to do the work. And I think Mr. Grant, as he just illustrated from the previous slide, is doing a really fine job of getting more JSEBs into the program so that there will be more opportunities for the city to hit these targets in the future. Mr. Grant did highlight on the dashboard that there are now 551 certified JSEBs. That number is, I think when he started, the number was around 215. So we're talking about far more JSEBs. And while we want to keep the presentation to you short today, I would like to highlight that Mr. Grant and his team are working on a number of different objectives, and we don't feel that the only measure of success for small businesses in Jacksonville is getting city contracts. A lot of them, or a lot of the success is education, access to finance, and really setting up our small businesses to be successful. City work is not for every business, although some certainly can benefit from it. The Access to Capital program, which is the next bullet point, is started as $1 million fund. For many years, this program was very rarely used. Mr. Grant put almost the entire $1 million to use. And at this point, 30% of those dollars have been repaid. And I think we're looking forward to being able to reallocate or reloan those dollars again to more JSEBs in the future. You'll see noted here at the bottom of this slide some education and outreach efforts. Just some basic numbers here, with over 75 workshops and more than 1,000 entrepreneurs having the opportunity to learn from those workshops. On our final slide, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any after that, some accomplishments for the quarter or for fiscal year 25. Really, one of our big accomplishments was getting a consistent report that we will now be able to provide to you. I know that doesn't sound like we're climbing mountains here, but it was really took some effort to be able to get some metrics that we could, again, consistently provide to you guys so that you're getting the same thing every time. We're not cherry picking data for you, and then quarter after quarter you'll be able to measure progress. At this point, we don't see a need for any new legislation, although if that happens to come up again in the future, we won't hesitate to reach out, whether it's to this committee or to one of you individually. Mr. Chair, at that point, our presentation is concluded, but like I stated, I'm more than happy to answer questions. We're really excited about the direction that this program is going and the ways that both you and I, as chair of the monitoring committee, can hold Mr. Grant and his team accountable in the future.
All right, thank you for that. We have one speaker in the queue, Councilmember Lanin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair to Mr. Zaffaroni, thank you for volunteering your time for this, as well as all the other things you're involved in the city. So really appreciate your volunteer service to our community. A couple things here. One, just thanks to you and Mr. Grant and his team I mean, I doubled the amount of JSEBs in 1 year in my district, and the numbers look the same for a lot of you as well. And I think part of that's just having the dedicated town halls in every district. I think Mr. Grant has plans to probably do that again here soon. My first question, the Military Veteran Entrepreneurship Grant, this was something I worked hard on with you guys. It said 8,000. I think that's just what's been actually going out the door so far. So through the chair to Mr. Grant, I think we have a lot more pending, correct? Because I know one of the concerns was we were going to use up that 50 grand and potentially see if we could make that a budgeted item going forward.
Absolutely. Through the chair to Councilman Lannon. Yeah, that number as of right now has definitely doubled. It might be even more than that. So we do have quite a few in the queue. So we are approaching making significant progress with that.
Through Chair, thank you, Mr. Grant. Just to my colleagues, that's something I'm going to work to try to make a budget annual amount. This is you go through. There's a couple forms of training you can go through to show that you know what you're doing, and you have to have a business plan, and it has to be for a tangible asset. So these are for veterans, some recently separated, some a little longer than that are looking to grow or expand their businesses here in our community. The other thing, it mentioned 86 million went to JSEBs, and although you were short on the percentages, I'm just thinking, given the scope of how much our CIP has grown up greatly the past 2 years, I got to believe that 86 million, although not a percentage goal, that has to be, from a magnitude perspective, probably the most we've ever given out to JSEBs in a given year. And it looks like Mr. Grant is nodding. So just want to point that out, even though we were a little short of a percentage goal, from a sheer magnitude, 86 million is the most we've ever given to JSEBs in a given year. So again, great job. Thanks for all the work you guys do for us.
Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And I wanted to almost echo some of the same remarks that Councilmember Lannon had. However, I will say that, Mr. Grant, I know when we were working on the different JSEB special committees that we held in the last 2 years, we created the access to capital, we bumped it up, and we had $1 million, like you stated. 30% has been repaid already by current JSEBs. The way that it continues to get funded is by the lower interest rate that you guys charge, which is, I think, is like 4%, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what essentially is going to continue to fund that access to capital. We, as a body, through legislation and that process, funded $1 million, and the goal was to have it being repaid back to council. Is that correct, sir?
Through the chair to Councilman Arias. So we're talking about two different funding pots. So the access to capital funding that we just reported on here was previous to the $1 million that you're talking about. So the $1 million you're talking about is an additional capital access program that is actually out. 650,000 of that is out on RFP right now. So we are beginning to execute on that as we speak. However, we were able to loan out the grants based on that program, which was about 250,000. But the loan portion is now being rolled out as we speak.
Thank you. Through the chair. So would you say that $1 million that we passed, like the second one, the one that we're talking about now, not the one that you presented on, by when will we have that money reimbursed to us? And the way I see it is, Mr. Lannon, if you're talking about through the budget process, we have $1 million that we essentially gave them that they're going to pay back to us that we could reallocate instead of creating a new budget item, is my point. So, Mr. Grant, do you know by when we'll be able to receive those dollars back?
Yeah, through the chair. I would say once we get the RFP awarded out, we'll have a better idea of when we would get it back. I would say we would start seeing some of it back definitely over the course of 12 to 24 months.
And when you say seeing some of it back, well, how much will we see annually, I guess, back? Would you say a couple 100,000?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely speculative. So at least 100,000. But I see where you're going with this as far as being able to fund the grants. So definitely a possibility.
Okay. And then yeah, that's all I had. I want to make sure that we were in line with that part. So when you're working on legislation, there you go. All right, thank you, sir. And thank you for all the great work you all do. All right, thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Pittman, you're recognized. Yes, ma'am.
To the chair, and thank you all so much for your presentation. Just curious about some of the programs that were put in place. I'm really interested in the tier program, where we are with that, and how many of the individuals that were in that program who have become a prime and rotated, out. I think at one point in time we were talking about rotating them out of the program, and then we decided to keep them in the program. Where are we on that?
Through the chair to Councilmember Pittman. Great question. And number one, thank you and the previous council for establishing the tier programs. In terms of the legislation that was put forth last year with being able to extend from the 9 years to the 15 years, and I would say having retention and institutional knowledge, that's been going very, very well. What we have been tracking is how do we see JSABs going from a tier 1, moving to a tier 2, from a tier 2 to a tier 3.
That was the next question.
Yeah. And so we're in the beginning phases of putting together a measurement tool for that particular piece. What we did over the course of, I would say, 12 months is simply identify all of the JSABs and put them into the correct tiers based on their revenue levels. And so we have made it there so far. Right now, we have about 50% of the JSABs are tier 1s, 30% are tier 2s, and 20% are tier 3s.
Okay. And are we looking at, in terms of the primes, are they working with some of the tier 1s and 2 to help them become a prime, hopefully?
Through the chair, to Councilmember Pittman, absolutely. So we do have a mentorship program, a couple success stories actually, where tier 3s have mentored tier 1s. One of the tier 1s actually successfully got a contract with JAA because of the program, which significantly changed their business, moved them from a tier 1 to a tier 2. We do have more success stories like that we're going to be highlighting in the future. But from that perspective, it's working very well.
Okay. And so my next question is, I know we have a lot of development that's going on, and this kind of been my little pet peeve. We talked about developing a certain percentage of hiring some of the JSEVs. I'd like to know what is the update on that, and how many of those small businesses have been able to get jobs because of the percentage that they say that they would hire JSEVs on.
Through the chair. So absolutely. One of the things that we've done differently in terms of, I would say, the actual contracts themselves, we've been evaluating where the tiers sit within the contract. So for an example, if it's a contract that is, let's say, $10,000, we want tier 1s to be able to compete on that versus the tier 3s scooping those up, right? Mm-hmm. So we've been seeing a significant change as far as that is concerned. We have a special, I shouldn't say special person, but we have been monitoring that with our analysts to ensure that that equity exists.
Yeah, because, my concern then and my concern now, I just got this last little piece I want to ask. You got the big fish and the little fish, yep. Right? And so I'd like to know, out of the time that we've had for the 3 tiers, what accomplishments have been made since that time, because we keep talking about the same thing over and over, and I want to make sure that we are making inroads. When Councilman Ayers, you made some things that I just like to hear where we are on that, and how do you see that coming forward with all this new development that's getting ready to happen?
Yeah. Through the chair to Councilwoman Pittman, absolutely, and I can tell you we do have some reporting on that. A lot of the significant projects around the city, such as like Gateway Jacks, the stadium, and others, they have been working with our office very closely, ensuring that there's, I would say, equity in the contracts being given to small businesses. So we do have that data. We haven't reported it on this particular report, but I'll be happy to share that with you.
Because, again, what I don't want to happen is that they get the application, put it in, put these small businesses on it, and when they get the application, they don't get the money that they deserve or what they thought they were going to be given. So I just want to make sure that is still a priority, and to work with those small businesses, when the big guys put in those applications, because that has happened over the years, and I was hoping that you're keeping an eye on that.
Absolutely, through the chair. One last thing I would add is, you're 100% correct. We have actually been conducting audits on the different contracts. Even myself, I went to 2 projects, boots, hard hat, just to make sure that those compliances, like you were saying, are really happening. So we're working to do more of that.
Okay.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we have no other speakers. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming down. We appreciate it. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next we have Mr. Johnson, Tim Johnson, for the Police and Fire Pension Fund.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and professional staff. It's my duty this time of the year to bring forth the city's contribution to the Police and Fire Pension Fund for next fiscal year. We put together a placemat with all the relevant data, which we pull from our most recent actuarial report as of October 1st of 2025. I think we have a slide that captures that. I'll do three things, kind of give you the highlights with regard to what the contribution is, how it compares with and without the surtax, what it was last year. Also give you a couple of comments on the health of the plan and funding policy. And then lastly, I'll speak to this document right here. If that's all we have, I'll speak to that first and then answer any questions you have afterward. So staff, just let me know whether you need me to wait or whether you want me to jump right into it.
Go ahead.
I'll go right ahead. All right, the big number is the city's contribution for next fiscal year. That number is $224 million. It's up from $201 million last year. Everyone asks what that number would be if it weren't for funding policy and the surtax. That number would be $346 million if it weren't for the surtax legislation. So the difference between what you'll be budgeting for next fiscal year and what you would have had to budget if not for surtax legislation is a total of $122 million. I also get the question often, if we were fully funded, what would that number look like? The total normal costs for the city of Jacksonville is a little over $100 million. That's about $83 million in employer contribution and $17 million in employee contribution. So what that means is that the balance, the other $124 million, is paying the bill on the unfunded liability. I always get the question when this plan will be fully funded. You don't see it, but you'll see it on the placemat that somewhere in the 2056 fiscal year, we will reach 100% funded status. With regard to the liquidity ratio, which is also written in the legislation, there's a minimum of a 5-to-1 liquidity ratio that the law requires be maintained. I'm very happy to tell you that we're at 9.88 to 1, which means we have almost 10 years of benefit payments in the bank as we speak right now to cover the benefit payments to our members. So the fund is relatively healthy if you accept that this funding that's going to begin in 2030 is on its way. So let me do this for you. This reconciliation, it's detailed. I'm only going to make a couple of points about it. I met with the council auditors earlier in February, and we talked a little bit about the presentation I'm making to you today. And we got hung up a little bit on one of the items that describes why that number moved from $201 million last year to $224 million this year. And so what I did is I put together a schedule that shows you what items occurred that increase the contribution. That's followed by the items that occurred that reduce the contribution. So I'll hit a couple of these just to give you the flavor of it, and then I'll answer any questions. If you start from the top, you see that the sum of the sources that increase the contribution total $53 million. So why did the contribution go up $53 million? Well, one, we reduced our return assumption from 6.5 to 6.25. Two, we've updated our mortality rates. We have members that are just living longer. Three, there were salary increases due to collective bargaining, and 4, and these top 4 total $43 million of the $53 million in changes. Our survivor rate age differences are greater. And so we have our members who are married. There's a greater percentage of them that are married, and those spouses are younger and they're living longer. We pay 75% of the benefit to the surviving spouse when a member is deceased. So that's what contributed to the rate or the contribution going up. What contributed to it going down? Well, we had outstanding investment returns. $6.8 million came from that conclusion. Proud to say we were up nearly 12% last year. We were up 20% the year before that. Although we smooth those increases into the plan, so these are based on smooth numbers, we still find ourselves in the top 5% of pension funds in our size. Next, the pension liability surtax on a smooth basis, we're ahead of that 4.25% growth rate that we've used for the surtax. So we're saving money because we're exceeding our assumptions relative to how much we thought we'd make in the market and how much we thought we'd collect from the surtax. And then finally, there's a big $17 million number about midway in the decreases. And that is a result of us moving from a gross return assumption to a net return assumption. That savings is about $17 million. So in total, of the $30 million in decreases to the contribution, about $27 million of it came from those top 3 sources. So I've said a lot in a very short period of time. Let me take a minute and just conclude by saying that there has been an increase this year. That is primarily due to some assumption changes. It's up $24 million. I mentioned that there is about a $124 million savings between what would be paid versus what is actually being paid as a result of the surtax. The plan is healthy. We've had 2 solid years of returns. And I'm hopeful that your council auditor can use that last schedule I showed you to help you understand for yourselves how that number went up about $23 million in 1 year. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We have a couple speakers in the queue. Councilmember Lane, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, to our auditors, is there anything in here that materially changes what we had built into our Schedule B3 when we wrapped up the budget for last year?
Through the chair to Councilmember Leanon, that's a great question because here you'll see about a $23 million increase. We utilize the future schedules in the actuarial report for the future contribution to review what the administration prepared for B3, and what they built in was a number that's actually going to be a $25 million increase, so just slightly off from this. So based on the actuarial report last year, you will now add another $25 million to those forecast schedule where you had those deficits.
Through the Chair to Ms. Taylor, let me just make sure I followed this. So we assume 25, but the actual is 23, or this is an additional on top of what the assumption was? Sorry if I lost you there.
Through the chair to Councilmember Lane, in your forecast schedule, it will be an additional that was not taken into account $25 million problem that adds to your projected deficits.
Through the Chair, thank you, Ms. Taylor. I just want to make sure that again, that's how we think of it up here. How is this relative to what we thought it was last time? So again, great progress on completion grants, but this is a bad guy we'll have for next year's budget.
Council Vice President Howland, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is a move in the wrong direction, but certainly a great plan to reward our heroes and those who've given so much in the past. Question for Mr. Johnson. Do you change these assumptions every year?
We don't have to change them every year. We do an experience study every 5 years where we look at the assumptions that we made 5 years earlier and see whether those assumptions are on track. Things like lowering the assumption on our return on investment, we don't really need a experience study to lower that. So when we went from 6.5 to 6.25, we don't need experience for that. We do it basically as a means of seeing what the capital markets are delivering and seeing whether our assumption is aligned with what the private markets say we should anticipate. And it's also a way to control the funding that comes from the employer. Obviously, the lower that assumption is, the more you're assuming you're not going to make as much money, the more you assume the employer is going to have to add more.
When you adjust those assumptions, are they validated by a third-party actuary? I heard Ms. Taylor refer to an actuarial report.
Yeah, so the lowering of the assumed rate in particular is validated by our actuary. The others are validated by the actuary in as much as the actuary does the experience study. So when it comes to mortality, for example, if the average length of life for a member is 73 years and we're using 66 years, clearly we're off. We have to assume they're living longer. And so it's validated by the actuary because the actuary conducts the study.
Okay, and then when you complete your detailed reconciliation of required contribution every year that maybe has assumption changes validated by the actuary, do you have to get, pension law sometimes is its own body of law, but do you have to get approval from our council auditors? Do they kind of get agreement, meet in the middle, or do we just take the number and we've got to figure it out in the budget?
No, you kind of take the number and you've got to figure it out in the budget. Now, it's not a secret. We're very transparent at PSPF about what we're doing. The law, 304, requires that I bring this information over within 120 days of the end of the fiscal year, which is why I'm here. We happen to be getting together on some other matters, and so we had the chance, the council auditors and I, to go over this before I presented it to you. But no, they don't have the opportunity to kind of weigh in on it before you get my presentation.
Understood. All right. That was my line of questioning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Salem, unless Ms. Taylor, you're in the queue, do you need to set anything on proper course here, or can we go to Councilmember Salem?
Through the chair, if I can just mention one thing real quick back to Councilmember Lanon's question. I do want to also mention, and we can pull the numbers for you, it would affect your out years as well, not just 26, 27, based on the report that we used last year. So that overall 4-year deficit that you were looking at will change as well, and we can get you those numbers.
Looking forward to it. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to Mr. Johnson,
Yes,
my
sir.
line of questioning is similar to my colleague, Councilmember Howland. I served on your board a few years ago, and I remember the debate about setting this 6.5, 6.25. I remember it. And obviously, the lower your assumption, the more we have to put in.
Correct.
And obviously, we need to be, in my mind, we need to be a part of that, but we're not. We're provided that number to you. Can the auditors tell me what our contribution would be if it remained at 6.5 versus 6.25?
Yeah, it's in that reconciliation.
All
So-
I have is a one-pager.
Yeah, and it's in that reconciliation.
Yeah, but how
So
much would
going
it come
from
down?
6.5 to 6.25 increased the contribution by $14 million.
$14 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the increase. So just the 0.25% to my colleagues, the most of that increase is by just that one assumption of going from 6.5 to 6.25. If it remains 6.25, it'd be $14 million less. So that assumption has a huge impact upon our budget. And
I would be remiss, if you don't mind me commenting, Councilman.
Please.
If I didn't make this comment. Traditionally, municipal pension funds have both city council representation and labor representation on the pension board. So 2 of the members on my board were appointed by city council. There are members on the general employees board as well that have been appointed by the employer. So theoretically, you're able to get your perspective on things like this through the people that you appoint to the board.
I can only hope, colleagues, that those appointments understand the ramifications of changing that by a 0.25 point and increasing what we have to put in there by $14 million. I just remember on my time on your board, the flavor of those discussions, and obviously we have to deal with the repercussions of that, the 7 of us, and I'm sure some of us will be there next year as well. So it's tough. It really is.
Tough, sir.
And I just, and I mean this in a very kind way, I just hope your board understands the ramifications of such a small change to our budget process. Because we have worked so hard to pay off these completion grants ahead of time, and then we get a hit like this, and it sets us back halfway to where we were, unfortunately. And that's very frustrating to me, very frustrating. So I'll shut up at this point. Thank you.
I will add that all of our trustees are fine fiduciaries. They're doing what they're doing in the best interest of the fund. But at the same time, you have to look at the big picture, right? Because we're all in this together. The employer is funding this pension fund, and they're taking that responsibility as seriously as we are investing that money and administering these benefits. You'll see in that sheet that there was a $17 million offset to the $15 million increase that was a result of us going from a gross to a net assumption change. So, with respect, as much as I appreciate that decision could have been made by itself to lower the rate from 6.5 to 6.25, but we also decided to go from a gross assumption to a net assumption. And that net assumption saved the city $17 million. The net increase is actually a negative $3 million.
Okay, yeah,
So
go ahead,
that's inside baseball, but I just wanted to give you a complete picture.
No, thank you for pointing that out. Councilmember Salem, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for letting me come back on. Can someone explain to me the significance of going from gross to net return?
I can explain it to you the best I can, and I'm not trying to get in front of your council auditors. So if you assume that we're going to make 6.5% gross, that's not as good of a return as making 6.5% net, right? Net of expenses. So we're assuming we're actually going to perform better because we're taking the net number versus the gross number.
Okay.
I'll say it one more time.
And those expenses...
6.5% net of expenses is better than 6.5% gross.
My recollection is you use a lot of mutual funds and such that have very, very, very small expenses.
Correct.
Correct? I mean,
no mutual funds, but we use a lot of funds that have low fees attached.
0.05%,
You're
really
right.
very,
right
very...
there in that range.
So
0.5%, or basis point, 100 basis points, 50 basis points, right in that range.
Correct. So I guess making that assumption, and Bruce, if you can add anything to that, I'd love to hear it. Thank you.
Brian, go ahead. No, it's fine. You're good.
Through the chair to Councilmember Salem. Yeah, I mean, and this was actually the point of our discussion, is this the net of the money manager fees and everything else is, it's actually kind of an easier way to look at it. When you're looking at what you're returning, you want to look at the net return. So actually lowering that piece and then going at the net actually made sense. And if you combine those two, it's actually a net $3 million positive reduction to the contribution by the city. So it's actually a good thing. And as they get into other types of investments that may have larger fees, like certain alternative investments and stuff like that, it's better to kind of have everything on the same playing field that you're evaluating. So when they're talking about everything, it even makes sense to just always be looking at the net numbers.
All right. We don't have any other speakers in the queue. Ms. Taylor, did you have anything, or you were just getting in line? Okay. All righty. Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for the unfortunate news.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. All right. Last but not least, committee members, and just for the record, we did try to space out as many of these presentations as possible, but some of them are just required, so we had to put them where we had to put them. Ms. Taylor, go ahead. Report 901.
Yes, sir. Through the chair to the committee, yesterday we issued report 901 on the grants and contract compliance division. Basically, we looked at whether payments were to recipients, your grant organizations, and we looked at public service grant recipients, and we looked at direct contracts within about a 2-year period. I do want to mention that these were all transactions based on when we started the audit to the prior administration. And keep in mind, within the time frame that we did look at transactions, there was significant turnover. There were at least 5 different people either in charge of the office or once it became a division chief, so in fairness to them. But in looking at, we looked at payments, and we also looked at monitoring, basically contract oversight. We did find a number of significant issues as far as the payments. They did pay timely is what we found, each of the public service grant recipients and direct contracts. However, we did find significant issues as far as support for those payments, and then also accuracy based on the support that was there. Just to outline a few of the highlights, and I'm doing the 50,000-foot level. This was about a 40-page report, so if you have any questions after the fact, certainly happy to get with you. But out of the 1.3 million payments that we tested, 477,000 either had no support or insufficient support. So when they're looking to get those, most of these are on a reimbursement basis, so that support should be there, or they were not allowable expenses per the agreement. For example, the city may be covering 50% of the salary and they were paying 100%. Maybe in the end, by the time you got through the contract, it was okay based on what they paid, but they should be paying it in agreement with the terms of the contracts. We also tested one grant after we identified an additional issue, and there was $174,000 related to payments that was made on a reimbursement basis when the contract was supposed to be on a work performed basis. So just, again, not paying in compliance with those agreements. Additionally, we found $62,000 out of $85,000 paid on another grant that was set up for just equal monthly installments rather than services being provided, so not paying in accordance with that agreement. And just overall issues with the quality of the review that was done. No second review if there were negative balances submitted by the recipient indicating, that should be a flag to them that a payment should not be made if they've already paid over an amount for a budget line, and just missing support in general. So just really tightening all that. We've worked with the division chief along the way throughout this audit because it has been an extended audit that really could have been multiple audits in one. And they have absolutely taken steps along the way as they were made aware of things to change their SOPs, address these items, tighten their training, revise how they're monitoring things, all of that they've addressed in our report as well in their responses. And on the second item, I'll just mention a few things, which was on the monitoring overall. Really no policies and procedures related to direct contracts, which have kind of come on board, evolved over the last several years. So they really need to get those procedures in place to ensure that they are monitoring these. Gaps as far as monitoring related to certain ordinance code requirements, having those procedures in place. As far as annual compliance monitoring and quarterly, that's to ensure that the dollars you're spending, that we're getting what we should be getting, that we're paying for, not just reimbursing for costs, but are we getting out of the programs what we should be? There were missing monitoring items, not timely reviews, just overall quality of the reviews that were performed, that they are taking steps to address now. Grant agreements did not always include the requirements, so that was not consistently monitored or followed when those items were missing. And then budget changes, we noted, were not always properly authorized. There's a 10% limit basically per line item. So overall, there's a lot of improvement that they are trying to address based on these past transactions that we tested. That's a 50,000-foot level. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Grants and compliance has been a problem for this government for as long as I can remember. It's just never been done well. And what I hear you saying, Ms. Taylor, is that this all occurred in the previous administration. It did not occur since July of 23.
Through the chair to Councilmember Salem, the transactions that we tested to get to our results were based on previous transactions in the previous administration. Yes, sir.
Okay. Through the chair to Ms. Taylor, are you convinced today that through what you have completed that we're on board and things are going to be okay going forward, or do you need to do another audit in the next 6 months or so to test this administration? And this, when I say this administration, I'm talking about Maribel since she's come on board.
Through the chair to Councilmember Salem, the responses, I'm reassured in the responses that we got from her. A lot of times it's agree, we'll address. There are specific timeframes noted on completion of tasks that they want to do to address it. Throughout the audit, she worked to say, how can we change this, fix this? We will be doing a follow-up, of course. This is one we would probably do a sooner follow-up on. So within the next, give them time to address everything, and then probably in the fall, hopefully, go back in to try to see, and we would look at transactions now under this current administration to see how things are functioning and if we're seeing this turnaround.
Because I was very excited when Maribel started. I thought we had the right person, and I'm not saying we don't have the right person, but boy, when looking at that and reading that report, I want to make sure we've got the right person. So as soon as you feel comfortable in doing another audit, I would encourage that so that we can make sure we're on the right track. Because as I've said, grants and compliance has been a pit hole for this government for 20 years, as far as I know. Thank you.
Councilmember Lannon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Taylor already answered one of my questions. I was surprised to see that 35% of all of our payments had no or little support. And again, we've talked a lot about direct contracts and nonprofit spend. And my concern is we're coming off a year we spent $160 million on different nonprofits. If you run rate that, that's a huge percentage of potential grants with little or no documentation. So I was going to bring up, when can we audit this prior year? It sounds like this will be a fall thing to hopefully show improvement. Because I've said it again, once you look at our budget, $2 billion sounds like a lot, but when you remove public safety debt, public works, parks, and libraries, pretty much nonprofit spend and developer incentives are the only two real discretionary items that we have that are material in nature. Everything else doesn't really move the needle. It's nonprofit spend and incentives are the only thing we're left with. So I want to make sure that we are confident in tracking what we are paying out that we decide as a council to dedicate to nonprofit spend. So I look forward to seeing the follow-up audit, and hopefully it's not 35% of payments are showing lack of sufficient documentation.
All right. Councilwoman Pittman, you're recognized.
To the chair and to Ms. Taylor, I just want to make sure I understood a lot of the audit that you did. Are you saying 24? I think Miss what's her last name? The chairperson.
Maribel?
Huh? Maribel.
Maribel.
Yeah. She's here. Hey, Maribel. I just wanted to make sure with a lot of the inconsistency that we talked about, that her department was mainly doing a cleanup, right? And that we really won't get a full picture, I guess, until the upcoming year. Is that right?
Through the chair to Councilwoman Pittman, yes, ma'am, that's correct. I mean, really to know what changes that Maribel has gotten in there and made to hope that we don't see this occur again.
Okay, all right. Because my point is that I want to compliment some of the things that Councilman Lannon and I have suggested for the department, and it hasn't been long enough to get a real true picture to what's going on, and I think we won't see that until the upcoming year. And I also think, with them doing more hands-on or hand-holding with the nonprofits who are receiving the funding, that takes a little bit more time because, as you said, that department had needed an overhaul for a long, long, long time. So, I just want to share with Mary Bell, keep doing, you and your staff, keep doing what you're doing, because I know I've had a couple issues that I was concerned about, and, what I thought might have been the issue, it really wasn't. So I think, at any point in time, especially if there are nonprofits in your district that are having issues, and now we have, more communications I see from your department. Would you come up just for a minute? Let me ask you a question as it pertains to new processes. And one, how is the staff perceiving that, and are you seeing internal controls that are different than what you had when you first started?
Through the chair to Councilwoman Pittman, I am very happy to see this because it has been long awaited. We have been aware of all the issues that have been surfacing. The Council Auditor's Office has been completely transparent with us, and I've been anxious for this to come out so that we can really have the opportunity to showcase the complete turnaround that we have done. 74% of the corrective actions have already been implemented. And Mr. Parks and I had talked about January being a good time frame to redo this, only because until November 30th, we're going to be really busy getting your direct appropriations and the mayoral ones and PSG, public service grants, contracts done by November 30th is the deadline for that. But I feel very, very confident that when this is redone, you will see a tremendous turnaround. And the team is the right team. The grants administrator, Ms. Hampton, is what I call a pit bull, because some of you are not too happy with sometimes she pushes back, but she has to do that because it was not a good thing when we allowed things to go through in the past. And this is a new division with new leadership, and you will absolutely see a complete turnaround. So I'm excited to see that.
Okay. Thank you very much for the update.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate you coming and doing a great job with the department that you've got, all the issues and getting them all fixed, squared away. Ms. Taylor, anything else? We good to go? All right. We can finally get this plane in the air. Item number 1, 2024-627 is deferred. Item number 2, 2024-966 is deferred. Item number 3, 2025-361 is deferred. Item number 4, 2025-775 is deferred. Item number 5, 2026-0091. Need a motion on the amendment.
Move the amendment. Second.
Motion and second on the amendment. No discussion. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries.
Move the bill's amendment.
Motion and second on the bill as amended. No one in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0091 as amended. Item number 6, 2026-0092. Motion and second on the bill. Any discussion? Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I think everyone understands these dollars will then complete the Four Seasons Hotel completely. The bill that Councilmember Carlucci had, 25 million plus, almost got us there. This completes it, so we can eliminate that from the 26-27 budget. Thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Howland, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the auditors. What does this leave in the general fund operating budget stabilization contingency account?
Through the chair to Councilmember Howland, I believe $166,207.
Thank you.
Negative 300 now. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0092. Item number 7, we already taken up. Item number 8, 2026-0094. Looking for a motion on the Neighborhoods Amendment. All right, we have a motion and a second on the Neighborhoods Amendment. Can someone please explain the Neighborhoods Amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the Neighborhoods Amendment substituted the funding source. So instead of coming from general fund operating reserves, it would come from the 2% extraordinary lapse that is created by the Finance Committee, but that will no longer be needed due to a later bill on your agenda.
All right. Councilmember Arias, are you on the amendment? Okay, you're recognized.
All right. Thank you, Chair. I wasn't on neighborhoods, but I had a question today during Doja's meeting, and obviously this is it's on the amendment, but it's also in the bill in general. And I'll be supporting this legislation. Just want to clarify that. But my question would be to Mr. Diamond, and maybe Chair, do I speak on the bill on this part, if that's the case, regarding the CBA dollars, if possible, uses or not?
Why don't we just pass the amendment, and then we can get into it. All right, all in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment carries. Councilmember.
Second.
Motion is second on the bill as amended. Councilmember Reyes, you recognize.
Right. So back to my question, Mr. Diamond. So obviously we all have district dollars, CBA dollars. We all have our priorities. I've had to shuffle around some of my priorities. Essentially, I'm funding almost all my CBA dollars, 99% of it, towards Fort Family Park and Deerwood Rotary Park. And I'm leaving about $40,000, $50,000 towards some street lights and signage issues in some other neighborhood. Initially, I want to fund other initiatives, but this is just how I had to prioritize my CBA dollars. You're using 385 initially from the operating reserves, now from the 2% lapse. Have you had any conversations as to prioritization of your CBA dollars?
Through the chair, there's broad consensus for the bill as written. I'd like a vote.
Okay. Once again, I was ready to support it. I'm going to support it. But at the end of the day, I want to know because, Mr. Chair, so we have a sidewalk. We have some initiatives here for sidewalks. And I want to know if, Ms. Stigler, if you don't mind coming up, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
As long as we can keep it on the bill and brief.
Yeah. I'm also trying to fund some sidewalks as well, too, in my district. So do you have any sidewalk dollars available for this funding source, but also for other districts as well, too?
Good afternoon, Nina Sickle, Public Works. If the question's about sidewalks, we do have a fund for sidewalks that's meant to fund gaps in sidewalks. And looking at the CIP sheet, we might be able to find other uses for that. So I'm sorry if I missed the full question about.
Yeah, so my question was, so regarding to like parks and any kind of parks in the district or in Jacksonville in general, are we able to fund sidewalks through those sidewalks funds that you have? Because like I said, I also have some sidewalks as well as my district. Can I use some of your sidewalk dollars for my parks?
We should be able to, depending on how those sidewalks, what they connect to.
Okay, thank you. Once again, Chair and Mr. Diamond, I'm 100% supporting this because everybody has different parks, but I wanted to know about the CBA dollars because I wasn't here yesterday, and this came up to me for first time today. So thank you.
All right, we have no other speakers in the queue. The bill has been moved and seconded. Let's open the ballot. Record your vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0094 as amended. Item number 9, 2026-0095.
Move the bill.
Motion is second on the bill. No discussion. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0095. Item number 10, 2026-0096.
Move the bill.
Motion is second on the bill. No discussion. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0096. Item number 11, 2026-0097.
Move the bill.
Motion is second on the bill. No discussion. Councilmember Diamond, you're recognized.
Yeah, I'm going to support this. I would just point out that our attorney's fees on this are over $250,000, and this is a $100,000 settlement, and it is not the best use of our legal resources, in my opinion. But I'll vote for it.
All right. Motion and a second. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0097. Item number 12, 2026-0098.
Move the bill.
Motion and second on the bill. No speakers in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0098. Item number 13, 2026-100.
Move the neighborhoods.
Motion is second on the neighborhoods amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair to the committee, this amendment corresponds with the previous bill regarding the Neptune Beach Park. So it reduces the appropriation for the Gateway in for completion grant down by that same $385,000. to a $1,890,086. Also, will reduce that 2% lapse contingency account amount by the same amount.
All right. No one in the queue. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries.
Move the bill as amended.
Motion and second on the bill as amended. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-100. Item number 14, we've already taken up. Item number 15, 2026-103.
Move the neighborhoods amendment.
We have a motion and second on the amendment. Can someone please explain the neighborhoods amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the amendment just reshuffles around some of the dollar amounts between the gateway completion grants to match the expected payout. So $1,061,600 for N5, and then the remaining $532,257 would go towards the N4 completion grant, which is not yet fully funded.
All right. No one in the queue. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Councilmember, second? Do we have a second? All right. Motion and second. Councilmember Lanning, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to Mr. Peterson. I think this is the last cash completion grant bill. Do we have what next year's unfunded cash completion grant balance is, assuming this gets approved?
Through the chair to Councilmember Lane, and yes, sir. If you're looking at the schedule that was sent out, it may be at your desk. I'm not sure if it was printed for this committee or not. But regardless, if you take that into account, there is $7.7 million that remains outstanding. However, there is one project, which is Jones Brothers, at just over $6 million that DIA has been told the developer is in the process of renegotiating. So that effectively can come off as well. So that takes it down to just at $1.7 million.
So through the chair to Mr. Peterson, so 1.7, and what was our starting amount? Wasn't it about 60?
The starting amount was around $48 million.
48.
You did the 25 for Iguana through Councilmember Carlucci's bill. Councilmember Howland did $3 million for Rise Doro. You funded $2.5 million in the budget for the Juliet Balcony project, and then through these actions that you've had today gets it down, and then Jones Brothers coming off down to 1.7.
Through the chair, thank you, Mr. Peterson, and great job, committee.
Yeah. No other speakers in the queue. Yeah, I wanted to have that same line of questioning. We're down to 1.7 million. I mean, this committee is, after the budget, done $48 million in debt obligations. So you're welcome. But we have done a great job here. And, that's what happens when, everyone kind of can prioritize paying down those debt. And that's just going to free up money to actually do things that the city needs to be doing a better job at. I'm looking forward to next year's budget. I know we still have quite a mountain to climb, but we're on amazing footing. So with that, I got Councilmember Salem, then I'll come back to you, Councilmember Lannon. Councilmember Salem.
Thank you, Chair. The key will be, assuming the revenue that we expect comes in, we may have some extra dollars. And
Correct.
The key will be to use that for infrastructure, such as road paving and those types of things, and not additional social spending, and climb that. As we have tried to rein that in, that'll be the key to the budget process.
Yep.
We've got to use this windfall, if there is a windfall, appropriately, for what it should be used for. Thank you.
Yeah. And before I go to Councilmember Lannon, and I'll tee this up for him, and this is something that you've been speaking about all year long, which is our nonprofit spend. That's got to come down. And I mean, in my opinion, it just needs to be across the board. We don't have to pick winners and losers. I think we have to really take a pencil to that and start looking at it, because in my opinion, our priority needs to be first and foremost on our departmentals, which is doing the job of, what taxpayer dollars are supposed to be spent on, which is making our roads better, making our infrastructure better, making day-to-day life better for individuals. Not to say that the non-departmentals don't do that, but I think that's a secondary thing to our departmentals. So I completely agree with you, Councilmember Salem. And again, like I said, I'm looking forward to next year's budget. So Councilmember Lannon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, I think all 7 of us are united in a lot of these views right now. One thing I wanted to point out, though, is I think I'm hoping that some of the other boards, DIA, our friends at OED, they realize Councilmember Salem's Bill 92, I think that's going to get a supermajority of co-sponsors, which shows as a council how we're thinking about cash completion grants going forward, and completely agree on nonprofits. one thing, I mean, the budget cycle is not going to be the time to start thinking about it, but just like we've done with all the different departments on who's grown faster, slower than the others, maybe through the chair to the auditors, if we could even get that broken out like by a nonprofit level to see what nonprofits specifically have increased, decreased, stayed flat, so we can really like start thinking about it the same way we've thought about some of the operating departments within the city, because I think that's the best way if we're deciding to keep it flat, if we need to keep it lower, whatever. Let's at least treat a nonprofit as a city department, what has grown faster than average, and maybe use that as the first thing to look into.
And I have an idea on that, but I'll go to the rest of the speakers in the queue. I'm going to go to Council Vice President Howland for the first time, and then I'll come to you, Councilmember Salem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think it should be easy for the auditors to produce that schedule, because all you got to do is look at the non-departmental spending and you can go line by line. And, you know, with the exception of you see like public service grants and you see how much it's grown, or cultural council grants and you see how much it's grown, you know, in both those cases, generally higher than the sum of inflation plus population growth. But you can't tell what's within them necessarily. But the council auditors have that schedule, and I think DOJ reviewed that schedule about a year ago when it first stood up, or 9 months ago. So that's going to be one that's really important. And by the way, this is a conversation that's happening in 66 other counties right now too, because they've been flush with revenue. And now they're looking at the state reevaluating what property tax relief looks like. So everybody is out there, all 67 counties in the state of Florida, trying to reassess the definition of core local government and what it means to them. Everyone is doing that right now. Thanks.
Yeah, and our sales tax revenue is, well, not that it's affecting us as much as the state, but that is way down. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just would also add, remember, we took 2% through the DOJ process. We reinstated those parts of that was non-departmental, but the departmental part, the administration has agreed, go ahead and move that towards completion grants. So that was an additional 2% that we took, in addition to other work that we've done. Thank you.
And they were able to do that because there was money from the debt savings that they found, to the tune of, I think, like $14 million. Councilmember Diamond, you're recognized.
Yeah, just to add on to what Nick was talking about, look, some sort of property tax relief is going to pass. There's going to be something, and it's going to impact Jacksonville probably more than any other city in the state as far as percentage. So given that that's very likely to come down, the mayor's doing her budget review right now. I think they're doing it in Fantasyland. So, and there's no criticism of them. They have to do it this way based on current projections. But projecting forward for Finance Committee this summer, the faster we get our projection of whatever this implementation is going to be, whether it's this coming year, which I don't think it will be, but it'll be years 3, 4, and 5 out, then we should at least be taking that into consideration with this year's budget. I think everybody agrees with that, but I think it's going to be a much bigger hole than people realize.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm shooting from the hip here, but I feel like if there's a way that we could get some type of head start before the budget, if nothing else, to signal to what can potentially be cut, I think we owe it to those groups that potentially might see some cuts. Instead of getting in the middle of budget, July and then August, and we're kind of like, oh darn, okay, we're gonna have to whack $15 million out of all this. So I don't know what the avenue is for that. I hate to say subcommittee because it's just like, you know, a daunting word, but I think we need to get started on it. They're doing MBRC right now. For us to take kind of a crack at what we're maybe signaling, what we're maybe thinking, I think that's a smart move, in my opinion. And I nominate Councilmember Lannon to chair that. So, yeah, no second. Well, yep, there it is. I don't know that I have to have a second. But anyways, Ms. Taylor, go ahead, and then we'll get back to the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you letting me talk. I feel like I do want to disclose some numbers that we've been working on as we're tracking a lot of these bills. The big one that's been changed now, where it's not a transition in, is looking at taking removing property taxes for homesteaded properties, basically. And it would be effective January 1st of 27. Using numbers from January 1st to 25, so the budget that you built, the tax roll from that standpoint, it's about a $375 million hole. So I just want the committee to keep in mind, you're looking at about out of the $2 billion general fund, about $1.2 billion was public safety. That leaves about $800 million of non-public safety. You have debt commitments, other pension for general employees, all that are commitments. So it's really that 375 out of, maybe 600, 650. So it is a large portion that is significant. If I know all these are changing, there's a lot of different bills related to property taxes, but I just wanted to make sure the Finance Committee knew that number. We had touched base with the Property Appraiser's Office as well, just to compare our numbers to make sure we didn't have any large differences. So that's what we're looking at as far as materiality.
Yeah, that's a scary number. So Councilmember Lanning, go ahead, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I was just going to say, if it's $375 million, we can get rid of all nonprofit spend, everything we give to UF Health, every cash incentive can go away, and we're about halfway there, correct? And that includes get rid of KHA, get rid of UF Health, all other nonprofit spend, all cash incentives, and we're halfway there if the number is $375 million. So, which would be probably 50% cuts in anything that is non-public safety to get you the rest of the way there. So hopefully that's not where we end up, but just to show you what that means in reality that is what $375 million would mean, assuming we did not touch public safety. And debt, again, we can't change debt at this point. Debt is very slow to increase or decrease that debt curve. So just want to put that in perspective. That's what $375 million would mean to us if we really did have to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tremendous number to overcome. But again, I think we need to be planning for something. If we plan for nothing, then we're going to be scrambling for 2 weeks in the middle of the budget. And like we thought last year's budget was tough and messy. If we don't start planning for that now, it's going to be, I can't even say the word for it, what it's going to be, but it's, what it's going to, yeah, well, that or just completely chaotic. So look, we hope it doesn't get there, but in all honesty, in some way, form or fashion, whether it's through DOJ or whether it's through a subcommittee here, there needs to be some just planning to be put in place is my belief. So anyways, all right, did we pass this? Did we vote on this? What are we at? 15? Number 15? Open the ballot. Record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-103 as amended. Item number 16, 2026-105.
Move the bill.
Motion is second on the bill. No discussion. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-105. Item number 17, 2026-117.
Move the bill.
Motion is second on the bill. No discussion. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-117. Item number 18. I'm going to pass the gavel because I have an amendment. Councilor Vice President Howland.
Mr. Chair, you're recognized.
All right. Do we want to?
Yeah, you want to talk about it and move it?
Yeah. So, okay. So basically, what I'm going to do here is the Southside Tennis Complex. We had grand plans. We thought it was going to be a great project. Had a town hall community meeting out there. The community wants to go in a completely different direction. Scale the project very, 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 very way down. I put my CBA dollars. I put $750,000 of my CBA dollars there. So I'm going to claw those back and find another project, probably another parks project. But for now, we haven't identified one. So I'm changing this from $250,000 to $750,000. So my amendment that I will make the motion for is to change $250,000 to $750,000 and include the auditor's technical amendment.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second, and there are no speakers in the queue. Let's take this vote verbally. All in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All against saying no. Amendment passes. We'll entertain a motion. We have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. Seeing no speakers, Mr. Carlucci, anything else?
No, sir. That's it.
All right, let's open the ballot and record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your vote, 2026-0118 passes. Gavel back to the chair.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And we'll go ahead and read the second readings, and then we'll go to the last item, which is emergency. All the following bills are on second reading: 2026-136, 137, 138, 139, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, and 149, 150, 151, and 155, which brings us back to page 14, item 29, 2026-148. Motion and second on the emergency. All in favor of the emergency signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The emergency carries.
Move the bill as an emergency.
Well, we have, okay, let's go to Councilmember Arias for his amendment.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. I would like to add an amendment. I have Ms. Figueroa here regarding this emergency. So these are part of the economic enhancement plan that I had for the community back in December. It passed. They found some discrepancies in this bill, at least when it pertaining to this organization. So we've actually adjusted it here, and Ms. Figueroa reached out to my office the other day stating that she would like to see some other guardrails added to it, and I said, absolutely. It passed yesterday in neighborhoods, but like I said, I wasn't here on that committee. So the two additions I would like to see, and Ms. Figueroa, you could actually, if you don't mind, Chair, if she could come up, but confirm this, it would be that, number one, invoices will be due on the 15th of each month. And then the second guardrail will be that no additional reimbursements will be made until they provide the documentation for the first 25 graduates covered in the advanced program. So as you recall, we are advancing them roughly, I think it says it here on the bill, $80-something thousand. They will not be able to obtain any more funding until those receipts have been provided to Ms. Figueroa and her team. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, sir.
All right. So Ms. Stefopoulos, if you need me to email that to you, I will. But in a nutshell, those are the two additionals. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. She's got it. So is that your formal motion?
That is my motion.
Okay. Do we have a second? All right. We have a motion second on the Arias amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment carries.
Move the bill as an emergency as amended.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second on the bill. No one in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have approved 2026-148 as an emergency. All right. Finance Committee, that concludes our meeting today. Great work, not just today, but over the past couple of months. And this meeting is adjourned.